Hi, folks. We're back. And
Hi,
Jimmy's
everybody.
back.
I'm back.
Jimmy's back.
And for you guys, make sure you hit that button of like, subscribe, and tell a friend. And this way you know whenever a new show is coming up, this way you'll be first in line to get it for Larry and I.
I just want you to know there's a lot of people out there that missed you. I get these emails. Where's Jimmy? Where's Jimmy? Where's Jimmy? And 2 or 3 girls, too.
Well, I'm an easy pill to swallow, yes.
All right. I just want I want to say one thing. A lot of people, I'm getting a lot of emails saying I look very tired. I'm worn out, and the reason is because I'm very tired and worn out, and that's because I'm up all night answering hundreds of questions that come in through the email and through the podcast, and I answer all of them. What I'm going to do from now on is once or twice or 3 times a week, I'm going to come on for 5 or 10 minutes, answer 2, 3, 4 questions, and this way I don't have to do it at night. And I can answer them faster by speaking about it than typing, because I type with one finger. My keyboard, half the letters are worn off. I don't know where they are. So I'm going to make videos from now on, and they're going to go on. We're going to do the same Tuesday. Every Tuesday we're going to have with me and Jimmy, and then in between I'm going to have question and answer stuff and who knows what else. So that's going to be starting probably next week. Okay, so but I want to get into something now, and it was based on a question. But it was something I wanted to talk about anyway. And the question was, some guy, I guess from the Middle West, didn't know who Kobert was, and basically calling me a liar. And I don't know how to answer them questions on the typewriter in a nice way. So I'm just going to read a little bit about it, a little bit about Kobert, who Kobert was for my friend who lives somewhere in Arizona or wherever he lives. And then I'm going to get into something that it's kind of interesting. Well, here's Kobert. Kobert, for those who know, is the guy that I owed all that money to, and he was just a bad, bad guy from New Jersey. And a guy who my pal Jimmy's father brought into that life, and he was quite a guy. Here's just a little bit about him, so my friend,
quite a guy, yes.
So my friend in Arizona will understand who he is because he never heard of him. Robert Kobert Basacci was born on April 17, 1935. His criminal record dates back to 1958. And by the 1970s, when I became involved, he was considered a ruthless mobster connected with the Gambino crime family. And then I'm just going to throw this in because you'll probably know this. The phrase, "You think I'm funny how?" That was what Joe Pesci said in the scene in Goodfellas.
Yeah, Goodfellas.
And the reason he said that was because he was at a club called
Stefanelli's Tavern.
Stefanelli's.
It was in the Silver Lake section of Belleville.
Yeah, on Franklin Street,
Franklin Street, right?
Okay.
Right on the railroad track.
Well, his father, Juicy, was there with Kobert, and Pesci was sitting nearby. And a guy came in, and he said something to Kobert, and Kobert said exactly what Pesci said. "Do you think I'm funny?" And he cracked him over the head with a bottle. And that whole scene, Pesci got from that incident that happened at Stefanelli's bar that night. Anyway, around 1984, authorities said he was made a captain in the Gambino family and given a task of running the family's New Jersey crew. That crew was involved in gambling, loan sharking, drugs, and labor racketeering. By the 1980s, John Gotti was a new boss, and he and Kobert got along great. According to Gambino's underboss, Sammy Gravano, Sammy the Bull, Gotti selected Kobert to be the shooter in a hit because he found him very nervy and good with the gun. The victim was found with 5 bullet holes in his head and 1 between his eyes. That's Kobert. In April of 1989, Kobert and his crew were arrested and hit with various racketeering charges. He was charged with conspiracy and burglarizing by the Organized Crime Task Force, and he was accused of destroying evidence, and he was just nuts. He tried to set the building on fire. He was just
The FBI building. They were going to blow up the evidence, right?
Yeah. So anyway, he was sentenced to 40 years in prison, which was later reduced. But thanks to the testimony of Sammy the Bull Gravano, Kobert was sentenced to life because Sammy
on that
told
murder
him about
right.
that
particular murder, right?
He was said to have committed 17 murders throughout his life. But when it came time to pay the price, that's just what he did. Now that statement right there is what we're going to talk about right now. When it came to pay the price, that's exactly what he did. He spent his life in jail until he died of cancer. Now.
And didn't talk.
And didn't say a word. Okay, now. There's a friend of mine, Bill Stacks, who got a hold of me, and he wanted me to do another podcast with him. I did one a few months back. And I said to him, I says, Billy, I says, I watched the last 4 or 5 podcasts, and you're chopping up these guys, meaning Dom Casale and Sammy the Bull and John Elite. And, I mean, he's really going after them, chopping them up. And I guess he started it because Joe Molino, who was the Philly underboss,
Skinny Joey.
Skinny Joey, yeah. He started a podcast about 9 weeks ago. And he spent, I think, 17 or 20 years in jail. He came out and he basically retired. Nobody knows how he did it, but he basically retired, and he lives in Florida. And he started a podcast with this kid, Little Snuff. And it took off like a rocket. And his main thing was he was going to expose all of these guys that have podcasts that were government informants. He was going to expose them. He was going to have Rat of the Week or Rat of the Month,
yeah,
and expose
he said he could even have Rat of the Day if he wanted to.
Yeah, and he says he has all the paperwork and all the 302s or whatever they call them, and he was going to do it. Now, this guy, Joe Molino, he's only been doing this for nine weeks, and he's ahead of everybody. I think he has something like 34, 35.
Because he's real. He never squealed on nobody. And
well, that don't make him real. It means, because they're all real. There's just cooperators and him. They're all real guys. They're all, in fact, I don't think Joe Molino, in all the cases he had, there was never, ever one case that he had where there was harm or any deaths or anything involved, where all the other guys, they're basically killers. They just killed a lot of guys, all of them except for Franchise, Michael. So Joey Molino now took the lead. He's rising rapidly, and he did a nice thing last week. I heard he like the other ones announced that he wants to help all the young kids, and he started a little fund to help the poor with Thanksgiving and everything else. And
He always did that. He gave away turkeys
Yeah.
in Philadelphia.
in a couple of weeks, he raised over
About 40,000.
$40,000. Unbelievable. And he's still got 2 weeks to go. And he wants to help all the kids. And he's the only thing, and this is what we're going to talk about right now. And I'm sure you're going to disagree with me, and that's okay, because you're not always right.
Most of the time.
He's going to start. He does two things on the show. He opens up because he's another degenerate gambler, and who never wins. In fact, I don't know him, but if I did know him, I'd love to take his action, because he touts games on his podcast.
Well, usually whatever on the majority, whatever he picks, go opposite, and you'll have a winner.
No, I don't want to go opposite. I just want him and his friend, this little snuff guy, whatever they bet, whatever it is, I'd love to take their action. I can't because it's against the law, but I'd love to take his action. But in the meantime, he seems like a really nice guy. He seems like the kind of guy that I can get close to, and I know what it is to be a sick, degenerate gambler, and I think he even admits that. But now here's where we may have different opinions, and this is exactly what I told Bill Stacks, who's doing the same thing as Joey Molino. He's going after them with a vengeance, because he's saying that they're talking about helping the kids, and yet all they talk about is how many people they killed and the mob life and everything else. And I explained to Bill, I says, Bill, that genre, the mob thing, it's probably a false leader. I mean, if they started a podcast saying, we're going to help kids so they don't become gangsters, who are they going to get? They're not going to get nobody. So they have a platform, thanks to probably the first one that started them. I think John Elite says it was him. It wasn't him. It was Frank Collada. Frank Collada started this way back. Unfortunately, he died. Otherwise, he'd probably be the biggest. And that's the guy who got me involved in writing the book, and that's the guy who got me involved with Nicholas Pileggi and everything else. But anyway, now, and this is what I told Bill Stacks, who's a good guy, and he's my friend now. Between Bill and Joe Molino, they want to play God. Who's right? Now here's the problem, and I told this to Bill. Why don't you just let things be? Just, what do you care what they do? What do you care? Maybe they just do what they do with the mob stuff to get an audience, so they could, because if they didn't have the mob stuff, they'd have no audience. That could be it. He says, okay, but what about them ratting? They're rats. They're rats. Joe Molino hates them all. Bill Stacks understands a little bit, because during our first conversation, we talked a little bit about this. Okay, now here's where me and you might disagree. I've been in situations where I could have been very, very wealthy 2 different times in my life. In fact, I was. And because I refused to give up the names, and they told me, just give us the 4 names. There's 4 guys, we know who they are, we just need somebody to say, yes, that's them. And I wouldn't do it. And because of that, I lost millions of dollars, over 100 horses in training centers, bonds, 7 homes, on and on and on and on. And I went from that to sleeping on a park bench. So, I asked the people that watched this podcast, did I do the right thing, or should I have given these guys up? And my whole life for the last 30 years would have been a whole lot different. and I would have been in the Hall of Fame. I would have had a lot of money. I would have been doing the one thing, probably the one of the two things that I wanted to do the most in my whole life, and that's race horses. And I lost it all for not giving up these guys. Okay. Now, I asked your father, what should I have done? Your father's 80 what, 4?
No, 92.
92. Your father's 92. He spent 44 years in jail. And when I asked your father, did I make the right decision? He said, no. You should have, no, he says, yes, you made the right decision. He says, you did the right thing, kid. In the meantime, I was on a park bench.
Yeah, look what it cost you, right?
Look what it cost me. Now, so I didn't rat, and that's where I wound up. Now I go to Frank Collada, who did become a government informant. And I says to Billy Stacks, I says, now he's what you would call a rat. He's what you and Joey Molino would call a rat. But let me ask you a question. If you were in jail and you were facing a life sentence, and the FBI come to you with a tape, and the tape said, on the tape, it was the bosses of the Chicago syndicate talking to Tony Spilatro and saying to him right on the thing, what the fuck is going on in Vegas? You're fucking everybody's wife. The skim is not right. There's a lot of stuff going on there, bringing a lot of heat.
Mm-hmm.
And Spilatro said, it's not me. It's the other guy. It's Frankie. And the bosses says, well, clean up your dirty laundry and clean it up quick. Now, they show Frank Collada this tape. And Frank says, they wanted him to cooperate. And he says, I got to think about this overnight. I'll see you in the morning. Next morning he comes down, he says, I'll cooperate. So I says to Billy, what would you do if you did everything right? You followed orders, you did everything you had to do, and it wasn't you, it was Tony Spilatro. And you played by all the rules that you took an oath to play by, and he didn't. Are you supposed to lay there in your cell and wait to get stabbed to death maybe within a week? What are you supposed to do? So my thing is, just like when I trained horses, every horse should be treated as an individual. That's why with the big stables, it's basically remove and replace, because they just write out a schedule and they go, and some horses can't handle the schedule. Some horses need a little bit more time. But that's what they do. So I know that Frank Collada, it took him 10 years. It took 10 years for him to get over the fact that he ratted. I know that Larry Mazza tried to kill himself because he did what he did, he ratted. But they were both in basically the same kind of position. What are you supposed to do? I just read Kobert. Kobert was 60, 70 years old. He got 40 years in jail. He went to jail, was going to spend the rest of his life in jail. He never ratted. I don't know. I just feel that people, every situation should be taken.
Every situation is different. But a lot of times, these guys, they jump the gun. In other words, you don't have to always resort to that right away. A lot of times, the old saying, kill or be killed. If a guy, if they play a tape for me and the guy's ready to turn me in and it's an outright lie, he's going. He's going, because it's either him or me. I'm not going to worry about getting my reputation ruined and I'm going to be a stool pigeon. I'm just going to get rid of him. I'm going to get rid of him. And it's what they call do it on a sneak. That's where we differ. That's where we don't agree.
Let me ask you a question. Your mother spent 44 years alone.
Right.
So did you.
Yes.
You still feel the same way? You still seeing there, watching your mother
No,
suffer?
I don't want my father to ever become a low-life rat. No, I don't want my father
So
to
you
do
were
that.
okay with the way?
Right. That's his
you were
decision,
okay
and
with
that's
that.
how he raised me, and that's how I am. So,
Okay, so
I
now-
agree with that because, look, if I make my bed, I'll sleep in it. I agree. I agree with it. In other words, if that's what I did wrong, I'll accept the punishment. These guys can't do the time. I'm telling you. Like I saw the show.
It's no more time. Now it's because of RICO. It's life. It's just life. You get caught at 30 years old. You spend the rest of your life in jail. I'm trying to figure out because I think what Joey and what Billy are doing by exposing these guys, maybe some of them, Frank Collada certainly don't deserve that because of the situation that they were in. Now, I don't know, and we'll never know. And I guess I'll never know because there were times in my life when the 4 years I spent on the road, when I was laying in an attack room with no money, no food, no nothing.
But don't you feel better that you did that? That you didn't squeal? That you didn't give up the 4 names?
I spent nights on frozen dirt, crying, just crying.
But don't you feel better as a man that you've done the right thing? That it made you even more of a man. It enhanced you. In other words, it made you more character. It gives you more character. Giving in is easy. It's easy to throw the towel in.
Yeah, but then again, I wasn't facing life. I could have just walked away from what I love to do. It was just that I just didn't want to lose in something where somebody accused me of something I didn't do. I don't want to lose that argument. And I did what I had to do, knowing that sooner or later I'm going to win. And the wind up was I
But you are a winner. You are a winner, and you knew it would come to fruition. The cream is going to rise to the top.
So you believe you're on a team with Joe Emiliano and Bill Sachs Billy not too much, that everybody who become a government informant is just a rat and would have ratted either way, whether there was a threat on their life or not. They just would have ratted rather than do the time. That's what you believe.
They're looking for the means to do that. In other words, to find the opportunity to go to that road. That's what I feel. In other words, it's all because you don't want to do time.
Let me ask you another
That's
question.
What it comes
if you
down
have
to.
that frame of mind, I have that frame of mind, and that's why I didn't rat. I don't know if I was facing life and I was 30 years old, if I'd still have that frame of mind, or maybe sometime if I'm in the tomb, just like I was in the attack rooms, sleeping on dirt and crying my eyes out, if I would just say, you know what, fuck it, this ain't worth it. Because I took the same oath as the guy who ratted on me, and fuck him. Why do I have to be the stand-up guy?
But look at the great book it gave you.
Yeah, but that's all. You know the other bad part is you talk about
because you win the book by being a Rocky with a rocky ending. Look at that. You see, by you persevering.
I wanted to race horses.
That's why you're the main man.
I didn't want a fucking book. I didn't want a movie deal. I wanted to race my horses and be left alone. And because of a white-collar criminal who's the worst criminal than all the ones that I know.
Because of gambling. It just got away from you, that's all. But look at how you did. You rectified it, and now
I just don't understand.
You're on a potential of...
I don't understand how a guy could lay in a cell knowing that he's going to be there for the rest of his life, and knowing that his wife, his kids, that the people that he gave the oath to are not doing what the oath tells them to do. Take care of the family of the guy who's in jail. They're not doing that. The guy's wife is applying for food stamps. The kids have no clothes to go to school, and you're laying there like a fucking jerk off protecting the guys who put you there. And I think I said this to Larry Mazza.
I think I have a father that did that.
Yeah, you did. Now, how do you put like, how do you take an oath that says if your mother is dying in bed and we call you to kill somebody, you got to leave your dying mother? How do you take that oath? I don't get that. You know what it has to be? There's only one answer in my mind. And like I told the woman that worked at hospice, you're a different kind of person. Not everybody can take care of dying people. Not everybody can become a cop. Not everybody can become a fireman. Not everybody can become whatever they want to become. I just don't get it.
What people don't know is, if the guy's wife was dying, there's exceptions. People don't know that. See, they don't know all the little idiosyncrasies.
Don't make your own rules now.
No.
Try to make yourself right. The rule
I'm telling you how it is. See, this is a world that you're not familiar with, but I am. You know, they make exceptions. If the guy's mom was dying, they wouldn't force him. Like when Kobert's mother died, they all came out. 300 of them came out to Zarro's funeral parlor. You had to see.
I could see Albert Anastasia calling a guy, say, come down here now. Come to the waterfront right now. We got a piece of business we got to take care of. Sorry,
and you gotta
Albert,
go.
My mother is in the hospital. Yeah.
No. They would know. They would know that ahead of time. You don't just spring it on them. You always say it ahead of time.
What I told Billy is,
well, we agree to disagree. That's all.
What I told Billy is just take it easy on these guys. Stop chopping them up. And if you are going to chop them up, present only facts, because he's being sued already. Dominic Catali is suing him because they're cannibalizing each other. They're all.
One of them guys did the show Locked Up Abroad. He lied about the whole thing. It was such a farce.
Anyway, that's Kobert. And now maybe it's generational. Maybe because Kobert and all them guys before, your father, they all took the time. It made no difference if it was 5 years or 30 years or 40 years. They all did the time.
Don't forget, my dad, when he was 12 years old, they locked him up. In 1944, before they had cars, he was locked up.
All right, so this.
Anyway, we got to continue this another time because we've run out of time. We have to make sure those people know that if you like what you hear, make sure you hit like, subscribe, tell a friend, and talk it up, and make sure you ring that bell. Okay, guys?
And thank
Larry,
you
for your feedback,
watching, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate all your calls and texts, and I'll be answering all them questions live.
See, now I probably talk too much, and Larry will cut me off next show.
No, it's a frustrating thing where if you have 10 guys,
just teasing guys. Let's not get into a whole other thing.
Some of them might have a reason for doing what they did.
Say good night, Larry.
Good night.
Good night, guys.